Okay, I know we had some issues with the Zoom last week, and so I just want to just double check if somebody out on Zoom can just chat and just let me know that you can hear me, that you can see me. Um, that'll make me feel a lot better that we're not gonna go through this whole thing without it getting recorded again. Perfect, they can hear us. Okay, thank you. Um, Again, if something looks off on the if you can't see a screen, something if you're on the Zoom, go ahead and just send me a chat. I'll keep watching it, um, and that way we can make sure that everybody can hear and see. So we'll go ahead and get going. So this is the training for the custom dashboard. Um, Really, so when I think about a business, or really anything, you think about getting in your car. You know, the first thing you do when you get in your car is you look at your dashboard, you make sure that you have enough fuel, you make sure that your tire pressure is okay. If you're in a fancy car and it calculates all your tire pressure, um, maybe you'll look at oil, you know, make sure that basically all the gauges on your dashboard of your car are ready to go when you get in the car. Really, I think about QuickBooks similar. So, as a business, I feel like that's the reason we have QuickBooks. We have an accounting software, and it can be. I know as we run a business, for example, I know like with you, Sherry, you have QuickBooks, but then you also have like a different point of sale that you're running stuff through different customers, and so it's probably one of many dashboards that we have in our toolbox as business owners or somebody that's working for a business. And so I like this class because it really helps us understand really the whole purpose behind QuickBooks and the whole purpose why we're continually logging in, checking stuff. And so really the goal of this class is just to walk away with um, hopefully that understanding that these are some of the areas that we can go to and check every time we get into our QuickBooks. If you haven't joined us in class before, or if you're new, just a quick recap about me. So my name is Jackson Pace. I'm a QuickBooks Pro Advisor. I'm a certified public accountant. I've been using
Sorry, could you
QuickBooks
say
for probably 15 years, so quite a while now. And almost 13 of those 15 years is exclusively in QuickBooks Online. So definitely have a lot of experience with QuickBooks Online. I have 5+ years teaching experience. I've been teaching this class up here at the college in different settings for quite a while now. I have hands-on experience. So I have experience as a bookkeeper, have experience as a controller, have experience as a CFO. So hopefully I can bring all that knowledge, and even kind of on the tax side too, we'll bring that in and hopefully give you some good value in these classes. And me personally, so I live here in southern Utah. I reside right now in Washington. So that's a little bit about me. As far as the topics for tonight, custom dashboard topics, first thing that we'll go over, getting around in QuickBooks Online. We'll look at the dashboard, the home page, the navigation bar, how to add stuff, the new menu, and then the gear and some of the settings. I know our last class, we actually dug into a lot of those company settings, so this will be more just a quick overview, but we will look at the settings. Topic 2, switching between views. A lot of people probably don't even know this, but there's actually two different views in QuickBooks. There's one that they call the accountant view, and that's what primarily in this class we use. We use the accountant view, but they also have a business view. So we're going to look at both. Obviously, I'm more partial to the accountant view, but I have some people that use QuickBooks, and they're like, hey, the business view just makes a lot more sense to me the way that they word things. So we'll go ahead and look at both of those. Topic 3, search and recent transactions. So this one's like your Google for QuickBooks. Really, anytime you're looking for a transaction in QuickBooks, we'll look at the search bar and how we can just quickly find some of the recent transactions that we put in there. It's kind of like the undo button. If you're familiar with typing, obviously there's an undo button. Sometimes we'll put stuff in QuickBooks and it's like, I shouldn't have done that, or maybe I typed it in wrong. We can go to those recent transactions and correct them. So they group them all together nice and neat for us. Topic 4, what you see on a transaction. So really just breaking down the different parts of the transaction to get a better understanding of why they ask for different things in a transaction. So why do they ask for the date? How does the date affect the transaction? Sometimes when you're entering things, there's multiple spots for multiple dates. So we'll look at one, the when. We'll look at the who. So who are we paying? Who's paying us? The what. This is more our count. So what are we purchasing, or what are they paying us for? And the how much. Obviously, that's the amount. Okay, this will be a link that you'll want to bookmark. So go.paycpa.com/class. So this will be a link that you can click on, or you can just type it in your web browser and you can go directly to this link. Really, all the links that I share in class, I keep those on this page. So if you're having trouble getting into the QuickBooks sample company, the link to that will be on this page. If you like a copy of these slides, there'll be a link for it. So really, all the links that I'm sharing, they'll be there. So again, go.paycpa.com/class. I tried to make it easy to remember, and that's one that you can just have as a continual reference. Okay, we'll jump into it here. Did you know odds against small business? There's a lot of odds. It seems, especially recently with COVID, there was even more odds against small businesses. But I thought this one was interesting. 20% of businesses, small businesses, fail in the first year, which is quite a few. 50% fail in the first 5 years. So half of the businesses that start fail within 5 years. I kind of want to just pop this slide up there so you can pat yourself on the back. They say odds of success go up 89% in the small business if a small business works with an accounting professional and follows their advice. So really, I think hopefully you're looking at this time that you're spending in these classes is one, an investment in yourself, but two, an investment in your business. And my goal with doing these classes, even though sometimes it might seem like we're going over really super basic, simple stuff, if you have a more complex question, we can always dive into the more complex things of QuickBooks, of business, of running the business. But I thought that statistic was substantial. 89% of small businesses, they go up 89%. So good job for taking the time. I know we have a few on Zoom. We have some here in class. So good job, you guys, coming to class. Okay, first thing that we'll dig into, custom dashboard, topic 1, getting around in QuickBooks Online. So in this class, and if you've taken some of the classes in the past, you notice that I've switched up the slides a little bit. I'll try and, I know some people learn really well off of slides. They're real visual. They like to see the steps, the instructions off of a slide. So we'll have a good mix of slide presentation, and then after the slides, I'm a big fan of live demos. So we'll actually get into the QuickBooks sample company and look at a lot of this stuff. So first thing that we'll go over is the dashboard, displaying the home page, left navigation bar, the new menu, and the gear settings. So first thing, getting around to QuickBooks Online. So we will learn about the dashboard and location of the menus that let you record new transactions, view historical transaction, and access and edit your account settings. We'll also learn what transactions are and the value of entering financial data online, so you can build accurate reports about your business. Really, the whole goal of QuickBooks is we're getting information inside of QuickBooks. As we get down the class a little bit, we'll look at the reports and where that information actually shows up. But really, the hardest part is, one, just getting the data in there, and then two, double checking it to make sure that the data is correct. So first thing there. The dashboard, so basically overview of the dashboard provides quick information at your fingertips, including a financial dashboard and bank account balances. You can enable private mode to hide the sensitive data if you're using QuickBooks in a public place. And so what I'm going to do, and let me see, I'll probably have to redo the share here. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see this new screen. I know if you're here in class, you can definitely see it. But this is that page. So if you were to type in that website, go.paycpa.com/class, it'll essentially take you to this page. And so the first thing that I want to have everybody open up is we get right down here where it says test drive companies. And these are the test drive companies that we can actually get in and start clicking around in. So there's two of them. There's a test drive company for the QBO Plus company, and then there's another one for the advanced sample company. In this class, we're actually going to be using the advanced. So we'll go ahead and click in here. And if you have your own QuickBooks file, I mean, you're definitely welcome to follow along in your own company file as well. Okay. And I know on Zoom it's a little bit tricky because it doesn't like to follow me around. So let's see if we can trick it here. Okay. So hopefully, and this is a question if you're joining us on Zoom. Basically what I'm doing is I'm switching between the QuickBooks sample company and the slides. And I just want to confirm that on Zoom you can see me switching between those two. Or does it just show one screen? And I know this is part of the tricky part of doing it on Zoom and in person. Okay, perfect. I can see us switching. So thank you for that feedback. Okay, so Craig's Design and Landscape Service, this is the sample company. So as we came over here, the home page. So basically when I'm referring to the home page, it's really the page that we see when we log into QuickBooks. So over along the left-hand side is basically what they're referring to is the dashboard menu. So as far as moving around in QuickBooks, really you can access all the features in QuickBooks Online in really three areas. And so I highlighted, underlined all. So the three different areas, and this is more for reference as we go through these, but the first part is the navigation bar. So right here down along the left-hand side, number one, is what they refer to as the navigation bar. Number two is the new menu. So anytime you want to add new transactions, new expenses, new invoices into QuickBooks, we use the new menu. And then the third one is the gear menu or the company menu. So that's right over here on the right-hand side. So if we hop over in the live demo, we can see right here is the new. If we were to click on it, that drops down a list of all the customers, vendors, employees, others, everything that we can put in new. It gives us the left-hand navigation bar down here along the left-hand side. And then as we refer to our company settings, that's the gear right here at the top. And so in our last class, we spent a lot of time actually under the gear, going over all the different company settings. So first thing we see when we pop in here, navigation bar is the leftmost menu on the page. It provides quick access to information about the people you do business with, as well as a history of your business's financial transactions. And the new menu is on the top left of the screen. It allows you to record your financial transactions. And just know that different company settings, hopefully everybody's looks pretty similar to this, but depending on the version of QuickBooks that you have, it might look a little bit different. And this is the gear. So the literally looks like a gear. The company menu provides access to company settings, lists, tools, and account management. So really those are the three main areas of navigation. So when we log into a QuickBooks and we start to think of it as our dashboard, we have everything down here along the left-hand side are the different sections within QuickBooks that we can start to jump in and out of. As we need to add stuff into QuickBooks, we'll have the new menu. And then the gear icon over here, that's if we needed to change any of our settings. Okay, so navigate the dashboard. So, when we pop into our QuickBooks, the first thing, if you have payroll, I know a couple of how many run payroll inside of QuickBooks? I know both of you, all three of you do. So have you ever noticed inside QuickBooks, does it pop up little reminders as far as, hey, this is what you need to do? Yeah. So that's like, I feel like the beauty, the magic of QuickBooks. Um, Unfortunately, in the sample company, we don't see those reminders. If you had the payroll module turned on, that's one that's constantly popping up reminders. You need to file your payroll taxes, everything like that. But those will pop up here on the dashboard. When I talk about recurring transactions, this is where we can add custom reminders, and we can really start to customize the dashboard within our QuickBooks so that we don't miss out on stuff. And so I want to walk you through really how to add one of those reminders to your QuickBooks. And this is something that I do personally. I mean, it's just a good reminder to come in here and just have QuickBooks remind you of you things. So if you click on the gear, and you can go ahead, even if you want to, feel free to minimize me and follow along in the QuickBooks. You can either follow along, or if you just want to watch me do it, feel free to do either one of those. So, but basically, if you're following along, we're in our QuickBooks. We have the dashboard pulled up. First thing we'll do is we'll click on the gear, which is right here. And then that drops down a list. So basically a whole bunch of different settings that we can then select from. The one that we'll be working on right now is under lists. There's one for recurring transactions. And so we can click on that recurring transactions. So you can see in the sample company, they have two default ones in here. So one is a telephone bill. And a quick overview of how these recurring transactions work. Every one of them, anytime you put one in, you have to give it a template name. And so this template name, this is really something that you define, something that makes sense to you. So in this scenario, they have telephone bill and monthly building lease are the two that they have in here. The type, they have these scheduled. The transaction type is a bill for both of them. The interval, and this is how frequently you want these to recur within your QuickBooks, is every month. The previous date, so if you would have set up one of these a while ago and it's been rolling forward in your QuickBooks, it would have the last time this transaction was created inside of QuickBooks. Under the sample company, we don't have a previous date, so just know that eventually stuff will be populated right here. The next date, this is the next date that this transaction will actually populate in your QuickBooks. And if it's going to affect a customer or a vendor, in this case where it's a telephone bill, that would be considered a vendor. And so Cal Telephone is the vendor for the telephone bill. How Properties is the vendor for the monthly building lease. That's who they're paying the lease to. The amount, so it looks like every month they have a telephone bill for $74.36. And their monthly building lease is $900. So they're getting a steal on their building. So those are some default ones. If we want to come in here, so we have a couple different options right here. If you just had a ton of recurring transactions, you could actually filter through them here, start to search through them. Over here we have reminder list and we have new. So the button that we'll click on right now is new. And then this gives us the different types of transactions that we can actually select from. And so we have select the type of template you want to create and transaction type. So the first thing after we hit new is we have to choose, what type of recurring transaction are we putting inside of QuickBooks. So one is a bill, non-posting check, non-posting credit card, credit memo, deposit, estimates, expenses, invoices, journal entry, refund, sales receipt, transfer. Yes.
Is this just for the reminder that pops up?
So this, a couple of them. So one, you can set it to be a reminder. So maybe you don't want it to actually make the transaction in QuickBooks. It'll pop up a reminder. And that's really the example that we're going to go over today. If you weren't so worried about getting that reminder and you just wanted to automatically create that transaction for you in the background, then we can bypass that reminder. I kind of like to have the reminder because it'll pop up on my dashboard and it'll say, "Hey, remember you have this bill that needs to be paid." And the nice thing about the reminder, for example, like your telephone bill, is our telephone bill ever like the exact same amount every single month? Usually not. Sometimes, actually, with my CenturyLink, my internet, it's always the same every single month. But my Verizon, my cell phone bill, even I wish it was the same every month, but it seems like sometimes it's a couple dollars more, sometimes it's a couple dollars less. And so in that case, I can set a reminder that says, "Hey, you need to pay this bill every month. It's coming up every month." But it's the reminder to go in there and edit it and make sure you get the correct amount in there.
It doesn't automatically make a payment.
Nope, doesn't automatically make a payment. So
So you could just put any number in there.
yeah,
And
you
just go in
could
there and edit it.
you could really do, yeah. So if we wanted to do a bill, we could come in here and it's a bill. And usually these are, a lot of times we can put stuff on auto pay on our credit card. I mean, like my Verizon bill, it just hits my credit card every single month. So I'm not super worried about creating this reminder in QuickBooks for Verizon just because I know roughly it's going to be X number of dollars that'll consistently hit my QuickBooks, and yeah, I'm not super worried about it. But say I hired, maybe I had a property management company and I had hired a landscaper, and we came to an agreement that I'm going to pay him $1,500 every single month or week, or whatever that frequency is. And I knew it wasn't something that he was going to automatically invoice me on, but I needed that reminder, so I make sure that I pay him every month, because that's the agreement, that's the contract that we agreed to. For those types of transaction, that's where it's nice to have this, because maybe he has an entity set up, it's legit, legal, and everything, but he's not going to send me an invoice every single month. He just is expecting me to pay him. This is where those reminders come in. So what I can do is I can come in here and say, "Hey, automatically create this bill." And again, we have a big long list that we can choose from. So in this one, we're going to do a bill.
What's the difference between like the non-posting and some of those?
Yeah, so there's a lot, and we'll actually get into almost all of them. Especially, I think in a couple of weeks we'll do lists. It's really just what type of transaction we want to mirror. So if we wanted to mirror something that's a non-posting or a credit or an estimate, really whatever we're trying to mirror. In this case, we'll just do like we're going to do a bill. And this feature is nice, especially if your workflow is such that you pay all your bills out of QuickBooks, or if you have it connected to like Bill.com or something where you have another software that's pulling all your bills from QuickBooks. Then this is where this scenario works really well, because it'll remind us to create that bill. So we can have recurring bill, and we can have, maybe for the template name, we can do land service, so landscape service. So that'll be the template name. The type, so there's a couple different types: scheduled, reminder, unscheduled. I almost never use unscheduled. I mean, that's more, it's just going to be live in there as a template that we can use and pull from. I either do reminder or scheduled. So a reminder basically means it's going to pop up a reminder on our dashboard to finish creating this bill. A scheduled is, it'll just create that bill for us, and all of a sudden it'll pop up in our accounts payable. So in this scenario, we'll do reminder. We could probably do reminder or scheduled. And so it says landscape service, type, reminder, and then remind me blank days before the transaction date. So we can leave this blank. We can put something in here. If it's a reminder, it's probably not critical that we have anything in here. So in this case, I'm actually going to leave that blank.
What does unscheduled mean?
So unscheduled means, as we get out of here, you can actually create templates. So if there's a bill that you create frequently, or maybe an estimate, maybe maybe you're doing landscape services for somebody else, and you have an estimate that you consistently create. It's kind of just always the same. Maybe residential lawns, you're sending out estimates for lawns. You can leave that as a template in here and then just use that, yeah, frequently. So, so in that case, it would just be one that you can pull from. We wouldn't schedule it. So, um, the vendor. So this will be the vendor that we're actually going to set up and pay in QuickBooks. So if this is somebody new, we just created a contract with them. We've never paid them before. Chances are they probably aren't in our QuickBooks. And so from this section right here, we can actually add those vendors. And so we can say company name. We can just say Bob's Landscape. So Bob's Landscape Services. And then really the more information that we can add in here, like their email, their phone number, mobile phone number, all that type of stuff, the better. Their address. If we have that information, we definitely want to get it in here. Additional info. We covered this a couple classes back, but if we know, so more than likely this individual or this company will be somebody that we'll need to send a 1099 to at the end of the year. And so this is always a good time to go ahead and put that information in. We can pull that information, hopefully they either provide that to us or we send them a W-9 and collect that information from them, and we can type in their business ID. The most important thing is if we know we'll need to send them a 1099 is it's critical that we track or we click this box right here that says track payments for 1099. If we don't check it, then QuickBooks at the end of the year, even though we paid them out of the right account, the amounts were correct and everything, if that box is not checked, then QuickBooks will have no clue that we need to send them a 1099. So again, we won't fill out everything right now, but the more that you can fill out, the better. It'll just save you a headache down the road. So we'll go ahead and click, save that. That puts in our vendor. Now the interval, this is how often we want that reminder to pop up. So we can do monthly, weekly, daily, yearly. More than likely it's monthly. So we're going to say every month, and so you can do it either on the day, maybe the first of the month, the second week, the third, lots of different options, but we'll say every month on the first Monday. And so right now we're in July, so we want to start this August 1st. So that first Monday. And now if we had a contract with him that said, hey, this is a 12-month contract, we could actually come in here and we can say after 12 occurrences or 12 months, then this reminder will automatically just go away. But if it's an open-ended deal that says, hey, we're just going to keep paying you every month until I guess we either don't need you or we're not happy with you, then you can just have this be none. Or you can do a buy date if you want it to end at the end of the year. So a few different options there. Okay, mailing address, this comes in from the vendor. The terms of the bill. So what happens is on the start date, that'll really be the date of the bill. So if our agreement says that at the first of the month, the bill gets generated and we have, per the terms, we have 15 days to pay that, then you can just put those terms in here. Or you could leave it blank. You could do due on receipt. You could add a custom term. For this scenario, we'll do net 15, which means the bill gets generated on August 1st. We have 15 days to then pay it. And then we'll come down here, the category. So this would be probably like a maintenance. We could fall under that. Description, we can say monthly service contract. And if you spell stuff wrong, fix it. And it's $1,500 a month. Billable, we can ignore that for now. Tax, ignore that. Customer, we'll ignore those things. And memo, we want to have a memo in here. So billable, so this would be if we want to bill this to a customer. So say, and this is actually a good scenario for a property management company. If they're managing properties for individual homeowners or maybe somebody that's leasing out their home, and maybe their agreement with that homeowner is the homeowner says, hey, you go find somebody to do all the landscaping for us, and whatever that amount is, just bill us and we'll pay that, back to you. And so they can come in here and mark billable, and where they're the property maintenance company, that homeowner would then be the customer. And so it'll remind them on a monthly basis to bill their customer for this invoice. So that's primarily where you use that feature of the billable. The other neat thing too on these is the attachments. I'm always, especially if you have a service contract with this person, you can actually scan a copy of that contract and put it right in here. So that way, as you get maybe 2 years down the road, and you're trying to think back, man, what was our original agreement? What did we decide on 2 years ago? Obviously you can file that in the filing cabinet or wherever you want, but if it's attached to this actual transaction, it helps. In my mind, it's like the perfect place to have it, because that's where you'll try and reference it from. So right there's a good spot, and then make sure we don't have any questions here. And then once we have all that in there, really just come down here, save template, and it comes in right here. So this is the one that we just put in, landscape service. So you'll notice the type, it's not scheduled, it's reminder. It's still a bill, it's still every month. The next date will be 8/1/22. This is the customer, this is the amount. But the critical thing is where it's the reminder. So what happened when it's the reminder, we come back here to our dashboard. As soon as August 1st hits and we log into our QuickBooks on August 1st, right here, somewhere, probably about right here, there'll be a little spot that says reminders. And you can actually click on it and go right into that transaction from there. So again, what'll happen is it'll pop you right into that bill. If there's anything you need to tweak or change, you can do it. Maybe the landscape company said, hey, we did some extra stuff this last month. It's going to be an extra $200. So you can then add that onto the bill at that time and get that in your QuickBooks. So that's a live demo for recurring transactions, bookmarks. This is a neat feature, especially as we log into our QuickBooks frequently and we want to save stuff. If you use Google Chrome, and I believe it'll work with other web browsers as well, but you can actually bookmark pages on your QuickBooks. So, for example, we were just on recurring transactions. So if we want to just get to this page really quick all the time, we can actually go into Google Chrome, and they've made it real easy. They have the star right here. You click on the star, and we can bookmark this page, recurring transactions, and actually add it. So really this has nothing to do with QuickBooks Online. It's more to do with your web browser and in adding a bookmark to your web browser. So we could even, I don't want to bookmark it, obviously. But if you wanted to bookmark it personally, you could add maybe even a folder that's called QuickBook Shortcuts and bookmark this page. And so instead of going through the steps of clicking on the gear, going to recurring transactions, you can actually just bookmark that and go right to that page. It's also handy if there's a few key screens. Maybe you're always doing deposits, you're banking, different screens that you're constantly going to every time you get in your QuickBooks. You could bookmark 3 or 4 pages, and then the way that Google Chrome is set up is you can actually, when it opens those bookmarks, you can open like 3 or 4 pages at a time, which is pretty handy.
What?
Yeah.
Why am I not seeing that left side menu right there?
Left side. Oh, in your QuickBooks?
Well, I'm doing the same.
Oh, you're on the same one? There could be,
Still in
so.
that transaction page.
Where is it?
So
Exit out.
What?
so there's an X on the right there, the top.
Still don't have it.
Nothing, huh? Sometimes you can minimize it. Is there a little?
Okay, well, that's gonna just put away with it. Oh,
Did it just go away? So you can't see the whole entire left hand, this gray, this dark gray.
No.
Now I got clear out of it, I'm in my desktop version.
Oh, and that might be why. If it's the desktop version,
So I need to quit running the desktop.
yeah, yep. Because the desktop, and again, based on the version that you're in, it'll look, especially if you're in the desktop version, it'll look a lot different. So, okay, so that's bookmarks. Star reports. So again, as we think about really this whole class, creating a custom dashboard for our QuickBooks, that's the first thing we can do is we can actually create some reminders that'll pop up on our dashboard. The other thing that we can do is when you actually get into your QuickBooks, there's a few different views. And so as far as this view right here, I think of this more as our workflow, our process view, not really our business dashboard. It does a great job of explaining processes. So money in, the process for getting money into your QuickBooks, money out, the process for paying bills, entering expenses, accounting and receipts. So it does a great job of explaining those workflows in a very visual manner. If we click over here to this business overview tab, then this is where I feel like it gives us a lot better dashboard view of the really the health of our business from a profit and loss standpoint. So a few things that we can do on here, and I'll just go over these really quick. It gives us a really quick view of profit and loss. So all the income, all the expenses, and this is over the last 30 days. So we can change this. Maybe instead of the last 30 days, we want to consistently see this year. We can do last year. But just know all these tile reports up here, you can filter through them and customize it to the view that you want to see for your business. The other handy thing is it gives us, so if we come back here and click on this year, it'll give us a really quick glance of what our job, as far as the people that are managing the QuickBooks, what we need to do. So in profit and loss, we have income, 10,201, but right up here it says 11 to review. And so you're probably thinking, well, what in the world, like 11 of what? What do I need to review? Pretty much anything in here you can click on and it'll take you to a link. So if we click on 11 to review, it'll pop us right to our bank account and it'll have really transactions in here that we need to review. And so it's really just a reminder of saying, hey, even though we have some really good data right here, so if I come back here to the dashboard, it's QuickBooks' way of saying to us, hey, everything in the solid green, that's what has actually been put into QuickBooks, but it's incomplete. It's not complete numbers because there's still expense transactions and deposits that we need to review and put in here. So a couple things there. Same thing with expenses. We can filter through these expenses. As we go around the circle, you'll see that it changes. So right here, $390, legal and professional. If we click on that, it'll actually tell us what makes up that $390. It'll bring those transactions up. So as you're reviewing stuff, especially if we come here to the dashboard, business overview, you might be thinking, man, I have no legal expenses this year. Why in the world is it saying I have $390 of legal and professional fees? Again, if you click on that, it'll take you to that page where you can then review those transactions. And the whole goal of reviewing stuff is just to make sure that it's coded correctly. So we could pop in here, it pulls up those transactions, and we can see, Pam, seats, counsel, maybe that wasn't legal professional. It could have been for something completely unrelated. So it's an easy way to then jump to this screen. If this is something that we need to fix, again, you can just click on the transaction and that'll keep taking you to the point where we get to the very root expense where we can edit it. So in this one, we'll say, hey, it wasn't legal and professional. It was really, maybe it was permits, something like that. Let's save and close. So you can update stuff from the dashboard on the fly like that. And then we come back here and we can see how that number is now reduced. With invoices, this is one we want to keep an eye on. Overview, not due yet. So if you have anything here that says overdue, I mean, those are the ones that we want to start clicking on and just say, who owes us money? And we can come down here, we can say, this is everybody that owes us money, how many days they're overdue. We can sort them by the status. So really is a business owner, I feel like it helps us just start filtering through all the numbers and the information. The one, oh, do we have a,
Sorry, is this customizable too? Because
This
on my
is-
screen it has cash flow as the very top.
the very top? Yeah, it is customizable to an extent.
Okay.
QuickBooks is funny. So whenever they rearrange something, they never do it 100% across the board. What they'll do is they'll rearrange the view for maybe 10% of the QuickBooks files just to get feedback to see, did they like that? Did they not like it? And if they liked it, then they'll expand it to more QuickBooks users. And so again, that's where it's tricky. With this company, the test company, it'll always be a uniform experience. But as you get into your own QuickBooks, yeah, definitely it could look a little bit different. The one that I'll touch on, so the last one over here on the right-hand side, bank accounts. We have our checking, savings, MasterCard. And you can see there's the bank balance and then the book balance. And where these end up, so if you have your banking tab, you come here and we have our accounts ordered here. Some people, like, drives them nuts. Maybe they want to see their MasterCard very first and their checking very last. The way that we rearrange those is actually from this dashboard. If we come here to our bank accounts and we click on the little pencil right next to it, then it'll pop up these little boxes. I don't know what they call them, little square boxes. And you can actually rearrange the order of those accounts. So if we want to see the MasterCard first, we can drag the MasterCard up. Maybe the savings we want to see last. And so however we rearrange the view in here, and then click and save. Now if we go back here to our banking, you can see it's rearranged them from there. So kind of tricky. You can't actually rearrange stuff directly from this screen, but from your dashboard, we can rearrange several of those things. So, okay, and star reports. I'll share this one real quick too. The other, and again, we're going to have a whole class that's just on reports. But the one thing that I will tell you as part of building your custom dashboard within QuickBooks is figure out what reports are your go-to reports, the ones that you want to consistently review. So by default, you can see these reports right here: accounts receivable, aging summary, balance sheet, profit and loss. These reports all have a star next to them. I call them the star reports because those are the ones that pop up right under our favorites. So maybe if this isn't one that you want to consistently check on a frequent basis, you can click on the star and that'll take it away from your favorites. As you come down through here, you can see there's tons of different reports. There's reports on business overview. There's reports on who owes us money. So reports that deal with our customers, sales to customers, what you owe. So all these different reports, if you click the star next to it, then that'll put it, why is it not doing it? There we go. You click the star, it brings it up here, and then that way it's a real easy report to run. The other one is custom reports. Let's see how much time we got. If we got time, I'll come back to custom reports because there's one thing that I wanted to show you on this as well. Let's make sure we get through all of our stuff. Ribbon filters, we went through there. Whenever I refer to a ribbon filter, that's really, as we get to our dashboard, anytime you see these little colors, this is more of like a donut chart, but anything like here is like a ribbon filter. It's a ribbon with different colors. As we click on it, it'll take us to those different transactions, and then we can actually filter it just by clicking on the different colors. So if we click on the orange, it gives us all the overdue invoices. If we do the gray, everything that's not due yet, not deposited, and deposited. So again, real quick to just filter through the different information here. Okay. Questions. We might have to hit questions here at the end. Custom dashboards, switching between views. So the two views, accountant view and business view. So they've made it super easy to get to. So if we want to, I think by default, whenever you log into your QuickBooks, I think by default it's always on the accountant view. But if you want to switch that up, or maybe you're wondering what in the world is this business view, what are the difference between the two views, you can click on the gear, and then right down here, the first thing you'll see is it says you're viewing your QuickBooks in accountant view, or right over here, switch to business view. Let's just go ahead and click on this. And yours might be in business view. Is it in business view?
Mhm.
Okay. So see how that,
Get the accountant view now.
yeah.
See what it looks
So see how it looks just a little bit different. The reason, for the purposes of the class, we just always stay in the accountant view, because it could just get confusing switching through
that
things.
cash flow
It is a cash flow
bar,
thing.
So it looks like
Yeah.
our screen.
So see, even like the dashboard view, I mean, this part's still the same. They have added tasks, workflows. I mean, they're just different buttons. Definitely take the time. We won't spend a lot of time today in class, but take some time on your own and click through those different views. And if you have a preference, one over the other, then just know that there's different views. The one thing that I do like about the business view is I feel like the terms that they use over here on the side are more just business friendly, familiar terms, where sometimes under the accountant view, they can become more technical and you're wondering, what in the world are they trying to explain with. Yeah, no, it's handy. So we still have the same, I mean, we still have the core, the left-hand navigation, we have the new button, we have the gear. But they've changed a couple things. So just know that there's definitely two different views that we can get to. And again, right there, if you're following along here, so in this class we use the accountant view. To stay consistent as you learn the content, feel free to switch between the accountant view. Yeah, I'll always keep it on the accountant view, but you can switch back and forth as you'd like to. Okay, and we did the demo. Okay, search and recent transactions. So the search recent transaction menu is an easy way to search by transaction number, date, amount, and name. So those are the key things. It's definitely not as good as Google. I feel like Google, you can type anything you want in there, even if it's spelled wrong. It'll find what you're looking for. QuickBooks, it's getting better, but right now they really are. It's geared to search a transaction number, date, amount, and name. The other thing down here, it'll have and we'll do a live demo of this. But you'll see up here at the top is the search bar. It'll have some search tips. And then right down below it is our recent transactions. So anything that you recently edited, that you got in and out of, that's where these recent transactions come from. So we'll look at these. Okay, so let's just pop over here real quick. So again, to get to the search and recent transactions section, we're here on the dashboard, and actually, let's go ahead and switch. So now you can see business view, switch to accountant view. We'll have a little bit of a different feel. So here we are, accountant view. Same thing, this doesn't change. We click on the little search glass, and this is what pops down. So search tips. So this is handy. It just helps us remind us how to search through things, name, address, amount. But then right here, so this is the recent transaction. It was coded as legal and professional. We wanted to code it to something else. So that's one of the recent transactions that we were just in. So I like this from the standpoint that, maybe we get out of our QuickBooks and all of a sudden it like dawns on us. It's like, oh, Pam, like, no, that was our lawyer. I need to go back in there and change it. So as far as just a quick way to hop right back in there, again, we can come here, hit the little search bar up there, click on this transaction, and it brings us immediately back into the transaction. And we can come back in legal professional fees, save and close, and then boom, right there. It's still, I mean, obviously we're just in it, so it's still up there as a recent transaction. Other things that we can search for, again, if we wanted to find, we know we paid a bill, it was $100, but we can't remember who we paid it to, we can type in 100, and that'll bring up everything that has 100 in it. So it brought up credit memos, checks, estimates. We can do advanced searches. So we can say the amount, maybe we're trying to search for, a transaction that's, we know we paid more than $100. And so this will bring up everything that was more than 100. Or maybe it was something just super big. It was like, we know, like, what are all of our expenses over $10,000? None. Maybe $1,000. So this will just help us bring up all the bigger transactions. So lots of different things we can do as we get to this advance. So by default, it gives us basically the basic search feature. As we click on the advanced search, then it takes us to this screen right here. And we can really start to drill down on what we want to search for. Do we want to do all transaction lines? As far as my tip to everybody here, usually if I'm searching for an amount, I'll do all transaction lines, which just means everywhere that they could type an amount possible in a transaction, it'll search all those transaction lines. I usually leave it on line amount. So anything that equals $500, that'll pop it up. So any questions on the search? I mean, it's pretty user friendly, and you'll, as you use it. But I mean, as far as me personally, I feel like I'm constantly in here just searching through stuff. Okay, parts of a QuickBooks transaction. I feel like we've touched on this, but let's just, we have a graphic here. So a few different parts to the transaction, and we'll pull one of these up, are the who. So who are you paying, or who is paying you? Comes up, so that's typically your vendor, your customers. When, so when the transaction happened in the real world. So you can see one, number 2 is right here. What are you purchasing or selling? That's down here, number 3. And how much, the amount of money you receive or spend on the transaction, over here at number 4. So let's go ahead and just look at one of these. So this is an invoice. In fact, we can look at a recent one that they have in here. Okay. So the key things here, the who, so this is the customer. So we're billing, looks like so I don't know how to say their first name, Sonershine Family Store. So that's the who. Basically, their address and everything comes into here. The invoice date. So when we start to think about the date and how these trickle down to the reports, if we were to run a report, the invoice date is where that transaction will actually show up on. So this, the invoice date was 6/17, so June 17th is the invoice date. The due date was 7/17. So when we run a report, the date that it'll show up, so it's going to show on a June statement. It won't show on a July. So July is just telling us this is when it's due. This is when it'll actually show up on the reports. So again, where this is an invoice, we're talking the income. So if we ran an accrual basis income statement, again, this income would show up in June. July would be when they owe us the money. Here's basically the breakdown, the what, products, services, the description, and the how much, rates, amounts, everything. So you want to consistently, the invoice date, that's probably the biggest one where I see people maybe make a little bit of a mistake, is they'll have the invoice date, maybe they accidentally put like 21. And so they're thinking like, why isn't this showing up on my profit and loss this year? Like I can't find it anywhere. Well, it's because the invoice date was wrong. So QuickBooks only knows what you tell it. So if you tell it 21, it's going to show up in 21. If you tell it 22, it's going to show up in 22. Same thing with customer. If you get the customer name wrong, it won't show up under that customer's account. So those are the parts of the transaction. Probably don't have time to go through every one of those. Okay, got about 3 minutes left. So my tips. I always try to leave some tips at the end. The one thing, recurring transactions. So this is my one thing for you guys to try and work on through this week, is use recurring transactions to set reminders and automate transactions to make your life easier. Review reminders on the dashboard. So think about all the transactions you put in your QuickBooks every single day, every month, every year. If there's one that is just a consistent, like every month you're putting the same transaction in over and over, those are the ones that stand out in my mind is the top candidates for building a recurring transaction for. You can see as we went through the process, there's some upfront work. I mean, it'll take you a little bit longer to build that recurring transaction than it will be to just put it in QuickBooks real quick. But if you take that extra time, then every time after that, it should save you time. So it's like an upfront investment, and then hopefully that pays off down the road. So one thing you can work on throughout the week. Bookkeeping tip, document and file receipts. So keep copies of all invoices sent, all cash receipts, cash check, credit card deposits, cash payments, really just all the paper backup that you get from transactions. It's always handy to keep it. And my thing is I'm not a huge fan of paper. That's why you see like the crumpled up receipt, because paper is hard to manage. You get all these stacks of paper and it's hard to manage. So my one bookkeeping tip would really to buy a good scanner. So I scan everything. I mean, that's.
So like I get a lot of checks. Where
Yeah.
do they put the check?
Where you put it. So you can attach it in the actual transaction. Oh, definitely. Yeah. So you can do that. You can just save it to your, I mean, however your filing system works, QuickBooks is a great option. You can save it inside of QuickBooks. If you'd rather save it in a Dropbox, on your desktop computer, somewhere, yeah. But the key is, if you digitize it, if you make it into a scanned copy, then it's so much easier to reference and pull up later. And so the one that I use personally, it's the ScanSnap scanner. So if you Google Fujitsu ScanSnap scanner, those are, and I have tried, I mean, I went through a lot of scanners. This one is by far the best. They're not cheap. I mean, you're going to spend, you can usually get a refurbished one for like $250. I think brand new, they're like $400. So they're definitely not cheap, but they are workhorses. I mean, they will scan everything and they'll just go forever. Yeah.
No, sorry. Do they do multiple pages? Or
Yeah. Yep. So they'll do front and back. So if you have something that has stuff on the front and the back, it'll scan both sides. It'll do color. Yeah, you can. Sometimes I'll just load like a stack of 50 pages in it, and it'll just scan everything.
Do you throw those away, the papers, after you've scanned it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean, if it's. Yeah, the app's another one.
That's
yeah.
the
Yep.
easiest,
Yep.
I think.
Yeah, the QuickBooks app.
You just take a picture of it with your phone right from the app.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the app,
Attach it later.
especially for receipts. If we're just dealing with receipts, the app is super slick. Sometimes there's bigger things. So like when we get into maybe like a service agreement, we have a contract. Maybe we leased a new office in an office building, and they send us like the 20-page legal contract for the lease, and we're trying to think like, where do we put it? You can actually, when you create that, so now that they're our landlord, they're now a vendor. So when we create that vendor, there's actually a spot to put attachments in the vendor. So you can have that service contract attached right in that vendor. So it's just super easy to get to. So stuff like that, the app's not great at because like you got to scan like 20 different pages, and sometimes if your camera's out of focus, it'll be hard.
But you still have to scan to a folder somewhere
Yep.
and then grab it from
Yep, and then
there.
grab it from there. Yeah. So that's my bookkeeping tip. Business tip. I have this business book that I absolutely love, so I always have to pull the little things out of there. Drama free. Sometimes it's super easy, especially as a business owner. And this is mostly, I don't know, I guess maybe if it's just you and your spouse, but if you have employees, it seems like sometimes it's easy to just get caught up in the drama of business, stuff that goes on. And so I love this little quote here. Don't get caught up in the drama. As a value-driven business owner, you have to know how to de-escalate drama in your business. The better you are at keeping your cool and helping others around you keep their cool, the more respected you'll be. A dramatic person seeks to bring attention to themselves, but ends up sucking the energy out of the room. You only have 100% control over yourself and nobody else. So I feel like that's good in business and life. It's just keep the drama out. Don't be the angry baby, and just makes life easier. Next week, so if you're following along in the classes, next week's going to be a review class. So the first 3 classes that we had, next week will be the review. So if you miss some of them, if you feel like you need extra help, next week will be a good one to attend. If you feel like, hey, I have it, everything that we went over the last few classes, it makes sense, I get it, then, you could still sit in on next week for a refresher. But really what we'll do next week is we'll take everything in these first 3 classes and condense it into one. So I call it like the best of, because we don't have, in an hour, we can't get through 3 hours worth of stuff. So it's really like the top things that I feel like you need to take away from those first 3 classes. That'll be the review class. And join us. You can also, if you're on Facebook, we have about almost 50 people on there now. But if you're a Facebooker and you want to join us on Facebook, it's facebook.com/group/QuickBooks training class. It's a private group, so it's really just limited to the people that I invite or that extend an invitation and I allow them to be in the group. So you can ask questions there. I try and share some tips and stuff here and there throughout the week, but that's the bulk. Let me check, just make sure that there's no questions. Okay. If you do have questions throughout the week, again, you can go to, and that's why I tried to make it easy, the go.paycpa.com/class. So right here where it says ask a question, you can click on this link, and that'll take you to this form where any question you have, whether it's related to the class that we're currently on or something else, feel free to ask questions and I'll look at those. If it's something that I feel like will pertain to the whole entire class, I'll answer those live during class. If it's maybe more of just a one-off, like probably want to pertain to everybody, then I'll answer that privately with you. But other than that, everybody that joined us on Zoom, thank you for joining. You should receive a recording. So if you want to go back and rewatch this, if you weren't able to join us live, there will be a recording of the class sent out. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach me by email. We do have a question. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. So go ahead and end the Zoom. But yeah, thank you for everybody that joined us on Zoom.